There is no curse. Well, not for me.
Yeah, you just told me that there was anytime you put a curse on someone, it comes. That's why I got like that's why my pancreas or whatever tried to kill me a few weeks ago for eating at your your mortal enemy restaurant.
That's on them.
No, that's on you. You're the one that cursed them.
That doesn't affect me, and it doesn't affect you. That it just affects them.
It affected me after I ate there.
Well, that's because they have shitty food. That's nothing to do with me. I could have told you that. You could have called me and said, "Hey, does that place have shit food?" Yeah, they do. Don't eat there unless you want to have the runs all.
I didn't get the runs. I got the just a stabbing pain in my side. But I haven't had it since, so
Well, there you go. I told you I would put some healing onto you, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So can you hear me now? Do I sound all right?
I think so.
You think so?
Maybe I just need to bring my volume up just a little bit to hear you better.
It's always you.
Always me. All right. So, man, I'll admit I started listening to the brand new Iron Maiden today.
What's the brand new one called?
It's called Crazy Ninjas.
Crazy Ninjas?
No, Senjutsu.
So, yeah, I saw that and I haven't heard it. And I have to say that, okay, first of all,
it's
Huh?
It's kind of a slog to get through some of their newer stuff, I have to admit.
Well, yeah, it's and what's Parlophone Records? That's their label, like Parlophone. Isn't that like an old English label that put out like Beatles shit when they were like doo-wops?
I thought that was Polygram.
Parlophone, it's like an old English label, and I have like old like Beatles records and Rolling Stones and shit that's on like Parlophone. They're not even a real label. They were just kind of like, one of those greatest hits like record labels that would put out like bullshit hack versions that you'd see in the dollar bin of like, oh, the greatest Beatles hits. It's not like a legit album. That's Parlophone.
Well, here it is. Okay, so Parlophone Records, according to Wikipedia, is a German-British record label founded in Germany in 1896 by the Carl Lindstrom Company as Parlophone.
Christ, 1896.
Yeah, man.
They're still doing around. They're putting out Iron Maiden now, not like.
Well, the British branch was founded in 1923.
Oh, that's better. That's more.
So they're a little more modern,
That's like
started out as a jazz label. Then Columbia acquired them.
And their logo was the English pound sign, right?
Yes, the trademark.
There you go. I told you I have like old, like Beatles compilation of the Mop Chop Beatles, not even like the cool Beatles, but like the I Want to Hold Your Hand, that shit. And
she loves you, yeah.
Huh?
She loves you.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the German version? She liebt dich, ja, ja, ja.
Oh, is there really one?
There is one.
Is it done by the Beatles or by
I Want to Hold Your Hand? Completely done, yeah.
Is it sung by the Beatles or is it sung by like a German?
It's the Beatles. It's the exact same song, but German.
Oh,
just like Der Kommissar. Remember Der Kommissar from the 80s? There's a German version of that. In fact, that's the actual original version. By After the Fire was the band. Like, they were their only hit single.
What the hell are you talking about? Some
remember that song? Allez joie, Der Kommissar?
No.
Don't turn around.
Oh, yeah.
Der Kommissar's in town. Well, the German version is Tatine Wolf. Yeah, the Germans are so special. They got to have their own versions, just like Norwegian black metal. Actually, it's
Wunderbar.
the other way around for Norwegian black metal. They're like, "Fuck you guys! Why we got to sing in English? Fuck you! Find out what we're saying if you want to know." And it's like, okay, no,
Yeah,
some
I gotta
people.
admit, I kind of like that about certain every once in a while, see, I don't know what it is. This is something that I've always, South Americans, they love thrash. Like that is like their
Dude,
thing. Some like Dominican thrash band, and they're singing in Spanish. I think it's cool. I like it when they sing in
it has to
their,
do with,
their native tongue.
I mean, just what's available to them in the area at the time and what's inspired their bigger bands. Like Sepultura was always influenced by
Uh,
Slayer and all of that, so that's what they did. And while they were coming out, the rest of the world was doing grindcore. And over here in America, we're thrash too, really.
oh yeah, yeah.
Over
Well,
here in
no,
the
and
80s, people were like, Slayer, Slayer, Slayer. Like, and by that time, by the time everybody got into Slayer here in like 1988, I
mhm.
was already done with Slayer. I'm like, you guys, Slayer is sold out. They're slow now. Now I'm in the Napalm fucking Death and all this stuff over in the UK, like American bands that weren't known here, like Morbid Angel. So
Yeah, but
it's always been the American thing. And as a radio DJ, I'd play death metal all the time, and people just would not bite. They wouldn't step up and take a bite. They were like, Slayer, Slayer, you have any Flotsam and Jetsam? Slayer, Slayer, Flotsam and Jetsam. Like, fuck Flotsam and Jetsam.
oh
So
hey now, they're
I used to
classics.
start with my, oh, fuck, come on, that band is fucking weak. I don't give a shit. I
No,
you like everything I hate, vice versa. In case you're
no,
listening,
no.
this is Mentally Challenged with Mark. He likes everything I hate, Hansen, and J.R. Tarina the Butcher, who hates everything he likes. And here we are,
Uh, you're
show number
just
what, 7?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'll have to
It's
look it
all
up.
it's all a blur. But no, I was going back like even in Utah, if you go to like a thrash show here, just you see all these Hispanics show up. And what's cool is they're like dressed thrash. It's like I remember asking this guy, like I kind of became friends with one of them. His name is Anthony, because he has like high top shoes from the 80s, but they're like brand new. I'm like, where the hell did you get these? I guess he's got like a guy that hooks him up with like
Oh,
pro-ing
dude,
high tops. It's
shoes
crazy.
or racket? You have no idea. There's a guy at my work who deals in shoes. Like he doesn't even have to work. He makes money just doing that. Shoes are ridiculous. They're especially, and that's another thing, out of the country, and especially in like you were just saying, in like quote unquote third world countries, and like most like in Brazil, places like that.
Mhm.
I had a pair of LeBron James shoes I got from this friend of mine at work. They were really cool. They were black and red with like the splatter. It didn't have a Nike logo on it anywhere, so I liked them. I'm not usually a tennis shoe guy, but I bought them from him. I wore them and they were just too tight, and I'm not like a flashy tennis shoe guy, so they didn't really work for me. But I was going to sell them, and all these guys from like South America and like Colombia started bidding on it. And you're not allowed to do that on eBay. They're all banned from eBay. So they were using like these
Kind of like
like satellite accounts in California and Florida trying to buy
uh,
my shit, and like it was illegal. And like eBay would shut it down all the time. And like I was like, yeah, I don't. And I
huh.
got turned selling vinyl doing that too. I sold a bunch of old thrash vinyl, and it was the same thing. I ended up sending out a lot of vinyl for a lot more money it cost me to ship it than I got on eBay to Russia, to Colombia, and one guy in Brazil is. And it was funny. There was one band called Unbounded Terror, who are a Spanish thrash metal band, and
Uh-huh.
they're. Have you heard of them?
No.
They're on a
Oh no.
Spanish label, or at the time it was Drown Productions, which is a guy from Spain. He's the singer from Evolst, Dave Rotten,
Okay.
a band Evolst, and he's done labels for years. I've always traded with him, and then later on he did 2 other labels. But I had this record from way back when, and everybody was just going crazy. But I noticed that nobody that was like Anglo was like, like putting their money in it, like what's bidding on it, and like all these like Latino guys from like Spain and Mexico are like fighting over. I was like, God damn, I had a fucking hit on my hands. I would have sold it for more if I would have known that. I thought it was just a bullshit death metal band nobody cared about.
No, yeah, no, like I said, it does seem to be thrash, and then it's some death metal, but um,
They look fresh. It's
I
probably
don't
just
know what it is.
Sepultura, like if you really look, there's a label.
You think Sepultura is the
They're the Slayer in Brazil. That's the Slayer in
yeah,
Brazil. You
but
got
I'm
to.
talking like Mexico, Colombia, like
Well, you got to think too. They're all united because they either speak Spanish or Portuguese, and they're sort of like there's that brotherhood with them too. So there's that. There's always going to be those types of bands.
but
Just
okay, so Sepultura is huge, but I would argue that Angra, power metal band from Brazil, is equally as big as Sepultura. Maybe not as worldwide, or maybe not as big in the States, but probably bigger than Sepultura worldwide would be
I don't
Angra.
see that at all.
You wouldn't? And
Simple.
their guitar player joined Megadeth, so
Well, that might be true, but but still, if household words are going to be the basis for comparison, everybody knows Sepultura and/or Nailbomb, Chaos AD, Roots, Bloody Roots, all that stuff. I can't name one Angra song, and I don't think many people even know that band. I've heard of them, but your average person on the street, and again, like we were saying last week, you have underground versus the real underground. There's the other underground where people think they're underground, and they're in the Slayer and Gwar and they're not. Like they think they're like these hardcore people who know about this music no one else does. But in reality, have you heard of Abruptum? No. What's that? Okay, never mind. Just keep listening to Green Jello. See ya. So
but I don't
that's
know.
ang.
But I still think there's something about the sound. I don't think it's necessarily like okay, Sepultura broke through, so thrash is big. I mean, I and that's maybe why I'd like to explore it more because I think there's the cultural thing going on.
Well, think
Like,
this too. You were gonna say what were you gonna say? Sorry, I interrupted.
well, no, and I was even going to just say like kind of going along with how like Utah like has a lot of like the Hispanic like just metalheads. I remember going to a Bullet Boys concert at Liquid Joe's, and at the
That's so
time,
Mark Hansen, like Liquid Joe's Bullet Boys. That's so Mark
right.
Hansen.
Anyways, but but
No, not anyway. Don't brush it off. Tell me, what were you doing there?
oh, I love Bullet Boys, dude. Yeah, they're amazing. But we could do that on another episode. We'll talk about Bullet Boys, Mark Torian, and all those. Great band, awesome band, love them.
You were there.
But so I was there, but like at the time there was like a lot adjacent to Liquid Joe's. This was fairly recently. It was like in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I used to work at the Harmons right there for a while, so I'd
Yeah,
always see a lot of shows. I could tell when I was in Harmons working what kind of show was going on because one night I saw all these foofy looking, not glam guys, but kind of like people wearing like dragons and shit and like D&D kind of apparatus, and I figured out it was I can't remember, like some Dark Tranquility or somebody was playing, so there was a lot more
oh
like
yeah,
nice metal guys. Then there was another night where it was a black metal show and there were guys with like blasphemy shirts and like that guy does not live in Utah. And so I started talking to him and they were from the band. I'm like, what band's playing? And it was some band I knew, but I was shocked they were playing at Liquid Joe's. But yeah,
yeah,
it's funny that little area is becoming like a metal scene now.
yeah. And they actually so they had a stage set up like they were doing an outdoor show while like Bullet Boys was playing inside, and it wasn't even like I don't even know if it was a part of Liquid Joe's or anything, but it was like this Spanish like metal band was playing and they were from Mexico, and they kind of were an Iron Maiden type band and sung in Spanish. And then their opening band was just these kids from Utah, but they're all Mexicans and singing in thrash. And it was funny because I was like, man, you guys are good. He's like, yeah. He's like, we play trash metal. We
Yeah.
pronounce it. We would like to play trash metal.
Well, you know what though? When was this?
It was about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago.
Because I got to say, ever since the death metal scene, which really has been dead since even before I opened up the Abyss, you had black metal, and in black metal, of course, is really just an extreme form of thrash. So I think, and plus you got all these hardcore and crust kids, punk kids here in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because of the presence of the Mormon Church, you have tons of counterculture. But right now, everybody's in the punk and crust as they always have been. But that goes hand in hand with thrash. So thrash has always been popular here, and it's always going to be the thing, even with the punks and the crust kids. And and the metal kids like it. And it's like a throwback to the good old days, which to me, like I was just thinking about it the other day at work. I'm thinking the grindcore scene was cool. I was really into the music. That's where I loved the music more than anything. I was so into it that I was just consumed to do a radio show, a record label, a column in the local paper, everything. I did all that stuff. But thrash was like the beginning of it. It was just so innocent and so fun and so pure. It was so
Hmm.
new. And it was like what I was looking for. It was like this piece of the puzzle in my life because, like we were saying before, it was like all these bands we like Priest and Kiss, were kind of going glammy and super production, and like everything was branching off into glam rock or like Racer X, like really intricate guitar work, but there was nothing really aggressive. And that's
Hmm.
when people discovered Metallica, Slayer, and all that kind of stuff too around that time. And I
Yeah.
think to this day, that's been like the mainstay for kids, especially here in Utah. And also because thrash has this party, drink a beer,
Yeah.
fucked up kind of
It's
mentality.
fun.
Yeah.
It's got the anger and aggression, but with the tongue
It's
in
like
cheek.
hardcore. It's pure and it's anger and aggression. There's no bullshit like death
But
metal,
it's
like
also fun.
vocals.
It's also like kind of happy-go-lucky music in a weird way.
And not only that, but and that's the thing is people wanted to have fun, and you got to think, especially here in Salt Lake, we just had a pretty oppressive black metal scene for a while. Like we had like Ibex Throne and bands like that, and like all their offshoots that were like really serious about their stuff, and like
Yeah.
they were like me, they were like, "Fuck you, don't talk to me. Why do you want to be a part of our group? Fuck off."
Yeah,
Like,
but did that guitar player for Ibex Throne? I forgot his name. He was a cool kid. Kind of just a little dude, little blonde.
Josh, Rocker Josh.
Is his name Josh?
Yes, that's the little
Yeah.
guy with blonde hair, right?
Yeah, he was really cool. I used to work with him at Musician's Friend.
Yeah.
I think he got married in a Catholic wedding though with his
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Last I saw of him, he was
but
working at Broovies.
yeah, and he was kind of he went in like a rockabilly kind of direction
Well,
or
there was
something.
a rockabilly band here in town that was kind of
Like
just friends with all the black metal guys, the Pagan Dead. You remember them, right?
no.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
remember them. They it was
Dude, I wasn't really in touch with like I didn't know much about the underground scene.
Pagan
Because
Dead
dude,
were a pretty big
I was
band.
hair metal. Like the most the most underground like band I think I was fairly familiar with was Wicked Innocence. They
Yeah, they
even
were
their
great.
guitar player even invited me to join them. I should have when I looking back I should have joined them. I just didn't think I was ready to. I was not even ready for to listen to death metal, much less play it. But looking back, I'm like, man, that would have been a great experience to play some of that. You know, because I was good enough to play for them. I just didn't understand the style, and I wasn't sure if I was into it. But you know,
Well, there
looking
you go.
back, I'm like, man, kind of should have.
You shouldn't dabble into that kind of stuff unless you're totally into it, I think. And see,
Well,
I
yeah, that's what I thought too. But I also I probably could have gotten into it. I mean, obviously, I ended up loving that style of music, but it was still fairly new to me at the time.
well,
So.
yeah. Like I said, when I was in the thrash, one of my friends gave me a tape of Napalm Death Scum. It had just come out, and I was like,
Mhm.
"That's fast. It's a little too punky for me right now because I'm still into like Voivod and Creator.
Mhm.
It's a little bit too punky for me, you know." But I kept going back to it and going back to it, and I kind of forgot about it for a few months. And I went in the ranch one day, and he was playing the Grind Crusher compilation featuring Napalm Death, Terrorize, and all these other bands that like were just equally as brutal. And I was like just crushed. I was like, holy fucking shit. That's my fucking scene right there. Heavy, fast, extreme in every way. That's it. Then of course make Napalm Death. I could like sing the whole album to you now, but back at that time it was a little scary because I was still in metal, you know. And it's funny too that you were talking about this because I was thinking about concerts and like my first underground concert versus my
Uh-huh.
first like big concert. Because remember when
Well,
you went to a concert, it was scary. Like my first concert was Kiss when I lived in Albuquerque.
how was it?
And I went, yeah, and I went with a bunch of friends, you know. And at this time, I'm a kid. It's like, you know, I'm like a teenager. I'm into Star Wars. I'm into video games. Like Atari was big right then,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I didn't know anybody. We just moved there, so I'm at home with my mom and my dad. And they have these two friends that have moved with us out there, so I'm just kind of like hanging out with my family. all of a sudden, this rowdy group of kids that's the son of one of the people that works with my dad, they came to pick me up to go to Kiss. And they're all smoking pot in the car. That was scary because I didn't know I didn't know anything about any of that shit back then. I was like 14.
Yeah.
So we go to the concert. It's Kiss Lick It Up. There's hardly anybody there because that's Kiss on their downward spiral. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Kiss rules. The
No
opening
way.
bands were Riot and Vandenberg. You would have liked that.
Oh my gosh.
Vanden
Kidding me? Vandenberg, Adrian Vandenberg. So
and it was
like
before Burning Heart. It was before that
oh yeah.
song. That song was new. He played that song.
Friday night is my jam from Vandenberg. I love Vandenberg.
I thought they were cool. They were more like a Bon Jovi-ish kind of like melodic soft metal or rock. But I was like,
uh,
oh yeah, this is a cool experience. And Riot were like really crazy. They were like just spitting
kind of
whiskey.
like they were American power metal, like one of the first.
Yeah, there was the tour for the album Born in America, and I didn't know because I'm used to like polished production from like major labels like Quiet Riot, Kiss, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Here's this band I've never heard of, and like they have this rough recording sound. Plus, it's live. I've never been to a concert. So, and then you get used to it. You go to concerts. You know, I saw Judas Priest on the Turbo Tour, Iron Maiden somewhere on tour with Vinnie Vincent, all that kind of stuff. But then
Oh
you
wow.
go to an underground metal show, and it's like this dark, shitty little room with all these fucking mean, evil-looking people that are looking at you. Some of them
Yeah.
actually wanting to fight. You know, this was at Alice's, which everything was black inside. And the first thing that happens when we walk inside is this fucking Nazi walks up to us, introduces himself as Nick the Dick, lifts up his shirt. He's got a skull swastika tattoo on his chest. I'm like, oh, fuck, what am I doing here? I'm going to get killed. Because I'm thinking, well, I'm Italian. He's probably going to kill me. But then I didn't know my world history yet. So actually, I would have been like in his good graces being Italian. But
Yeah.
all my friends are like, just, oh, yeah, I'm a white man. I'm a white man. Just going with it. I'm like, I'm not going to say that. Fuck that, you know? And I was scared shitless. And then the bands came on and played. It was Baphomet, Insane Slide, and Slaughter Christ. It was a really good dark thrash show.
Isn't Slaughter Christ Utah?
All three of those bands are Baphomet, Slaughter Christ. And,
Oh, well, there's more than one Baphomet, but
did I say Bathory? I meant Baphomet.
no. Well, no, there's more than one Baphomet too.
Well, that's the
There's
Baphomet.
a Baphomet from Buffalo, isn't there?
There was a death metal band from
Yeah.
Buffalo called Baphomet. They changed their name to Banished only because there was another band called Baphomet who were like this rock band from somewhere in
Yeah.
America. And they were on like a major label and like they got serviced at the radio station. And I used to make fun of it. I'm like, who the fuck are these posers? You're not Baphomet. Like pretty boy looking. And they looked like one of your kind of bands. They were the guys with a
Yeah,
lot of.
well, I was gonna say, so my first concert was Lynch Mob with
George
Steelheart. Yeah, Steelheart opening up. You remember Steelheart?
No, I never heard of it.
I try to sing their song, but the guy has a really high voice. It's like, I'll never let you go.
Oh yeah, it
You're
sounds great.
always by my side. It was a huge ballad back in the day. Played a lot on MTV. Yeah, that was great. And then my first underground show was like it was like a house party. Like the first like where I was like kind of scared. Like the music was scary. And I think it was a band called Pentacle, a local
Yeah, it's a
band.
local band, Pentacle. I remember them.
Yeah, they were kind of like a death thrash kind of thing.
Yeah, by that
Really,
time, I was doing
really
my
good
radio
players
show,
though.
like Pentacle. I was just like, yeah, whatever, just kind of rolling your eyes. And like, I was never big into Wicked Innocence, but we got into a big schmoz with them because of Disorder. Like, one of the guys from Disorder didn't like one of the guys from Wicked Innocence, and like, and I never played Wicked Innocence on the radio show because they kept claiming to be grindcore, and they were just to me just like kids playing Slayer, which I didn't want to
Really?
mess with because there were plenty of other shows on the station that were doing like Slayer. So I was like, I don't play Slayer. Fuck you guys. Quit calling me to ask for Slayer.
I don't remember Tom Araya whipping out a Native American flute during the middle of after doing some brutal vocals.
What?
Yeah, like one of the singers from Wicked Innocence played a flute.
Oh, yeah, that's Dallas.
No, not Dallas. It was the guy before Dallas. Dallas also plays a flute, but
Oh,
it
is there
was the
another
dude.
guy? Oh, I know
It was the
Dallas
dude.
makes like a recording. He's got like not a career really, but like
Kind
he's
of a
got
yeah,
was playing flute and stuff. Nothing to do with metal.
yeah. grind flute.
I have a thing with Wicked Innocence because I'm very strict in what I regard as grindcore, as black metal. And when I was doing my radio show, it was like they kept wanting me to play their tape, and I wouldn't do it. I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, why the fuck didn't I just play their tape? What was my problem? I was just being a dick, you know. It was just plain and simple. And then one of the guys from Disorder got in on it, and because Disorder was a local band and they were like a heavy grindcore band, I was like, well, this is what you should sound like, Wicked Innocence. And like, you know, it got into this big ugly thing with them. And I always felt bad about that because I didn't really have any problem with any of those guys. They were all cool guys. And I mean, the band is what it is. And they went on and, you know, to go on, like they got.
Yeah, they did some good stuff. Like I'd almost like they have grind moments. I mean,
Later on they did, but at the time they were trying to get played on my show. They were really just what they were, like just kids playing Slayer, you know, and they kept wanting to be grind. I'm like, okay, well, you guys aren't really grind, but I'll play your tape. And I would play it once in a while, but overall I wasn't really, I mean, I wasn't super into it at the time, but I mean, but I was, you know, pretty narrow-minded back then.
because they're kind of similar. If I remember, like the only other band I could really kind of ABM with is Cephalic Carnage.
And that's
or maybe it's just because they toured, I think.
Well, no, that's true because Cephalic Carnage are from Denver, and Wicked Innocence had a lot of back and forth with Denver. In fact, I think Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
He used to sing in a Denver band called Undertaker. So there was a lot of back and forth there. But not only that, but here's the irony: is one of the other guys who played in Wicked Innocence long before they started getting tapes out had another band he started called Catharsis. And I think we talked about this, but I put them out alongside Disorder. They were my first two releases on the label on a tape. And Catharsis, their album cover was bong water. It was like a big close-up of green, nasty bong water. And that's what they sang about, was just getting high and all this weird inner mind exploration and all that stuff. And they were a really good band. They had like the death metal vocals. They had like really intricate guitar work. Like they had flamenco guitar in one song. It was really good stuff. And they just kind of faded away. It's too bad because I think they would have been huge in that grindcore / you know, marijuana thing that Cephalic Carnage and Wicked Innocence got so famous for. In fact, there was a label from Italy of all places called Headfucker Records that specialized in like pot metal, which was all that kind of stuff. So, and I used to trade with them. So Headfucker Records in Italy, and I think it was run by a girl, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong there, but Wicked Innocence was on there, Cephalic Carnage was on there, and I know Catharsis, if they had stayed together, probably would have been picked up to go there too, and they were a really good band.
And they were a Denver band?
No, Catharsis are from Salt Lake.
Oh, okay.
And the way it happened was we were going to put out Disordered's first tape, and it was a big thing. It was me and one or two other friends, but it was mostly me. I was the guy with the money and doing all the work, as usual. One of the other guys went to a concert one night, and I guess they bumped into these guys at the gas station, and they were wearing like a T-shirt of something that was like a little more heavy, and so they started talking, and like the guy, one of my friends, comes home with this tape, like, we should put this out. Like, yeah, that's pretty good. So we did it. And that was kind of the last you ever heard of them.
Disorder. I had a Disorder tape.
Disorder was what grindcore should have sounded like to me back then. Like, you know, they were a Slayer thing, but Disorder was heavy, had the vocals, had the grindy bass, had the gore lyrics. So that was more in tune with what I thought it should be. So I was like really rigid about that. I should have just played it. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I
gotta admit, like I don't think I could, like, even like vocally, I still can't get in that style of vocals. Where it's just like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like us. That came out on the CD. When they were doing that on the CD, what's funny about that too is that's when Mike Kimball was on the CD, who is in.
Like, are they even saying anything? It's just like
not really. I mean, some of the stuff he is, like when he does his high vocals, he'll say stuff that you can hear. Like the low stuff, they're just burbling. I mean, Obituary does it, Terrorizer does it. Like, why the fuck is Disorder gonna get shit for it? You know, all the bands do it. So,
you know, the
funny story too is just Disordered. When I put that CD out, I traded all over the world with people for that CD. Mostly a lot of people in Eastern Europe, and like I just thought, okay, no one's buying it here, so I'm just gonna trade and get all this other shit. I sold some other titles I traded for at the heavy metal shop. But then when I had my own shop, The Abyss, years and years later, like maybe 10 years later, I'm getting in all this gore metal stuff for all these kids who are buying that shit up like crazy. And I was the same way. I'm like, I fucking hate this stuff. This is stupid. It's just like, just some guy with a
Yeah.
drum machine on overdrive and he's just burbling over the fucking drum machine. There's a guitar. Or like, that's just shit. But there
Yeah.
are people who love that stuff. And like a few of those CDs, I was looking at them and like not at least a handful of them said thank you to all our inspirations, yada yada yada, Disordered from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm like, what?
Uh,
And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, all these
so
bands,
they were kind of on the forefront of the gore grind
they really
movement.
were. Here's the thing is it was because of the trading that I did. All those trades I did with these labels that were like nobody, nothing labels over there overseas, like in Eastern Europe, putting out these stupid, shitty ass bands that I just traded for and I could never sell. I still have some of that stuff to this day. But then all these other bands were influencing these younger kids who then decided Disordered. They somehow got that CD because I was trading them over there. And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that. That's crazy. Disordered are like this huge, and there's a cult following for it. And there are people waiting for me to re-release that. You know, it's just like, sorry guys, I got bands that are living right now that need shit put out first. You know, that it'll come out eventually. Like all the demos, and people love the demos more than the CD. Just like what you just said, they like the vocal delivery is a little bit better. The guitars are a little bit more like dirty sounding, and yeah, the CD was just it got crazy. Something there were problems, but that's why they fell apart. But anyway, yeah, it's just funny how Salt Lake City, Utah, you know, like no nothing, nowhere, nobody, Utah, and here's this band that influenced like all these guys like all the way across the globe to do what they're doing now. It's
Yeah, so the one I had was Disfigured Corpse. I had the tape. I didn't
yeah,
have
that's the second tape, and that's the first one that Mike Kimball played on, and then after that we did the CD.
Documentaries of Disgust.
And that is me doing the awesome intro on both tapes and the CD.
The Cadaveric Feast.
Is that what it's called?
That's the intro, and then the outro is After the Harvest.
Yes. Yep, I
And
took my keyboard down. Actually, and here's another funny connection for you is we went to, I can't remember the name of it, like Sound Image Recording or something. It was a studio in the asshole of Salt Lake downtown somewhere. The guy's name is Toby Selhus. Do you know him?
Toby
It's
Saleh.
Sljaaas, Norwegian.
Yeah. He ran SIS Studios.
Yeah, SIS, and then before that, it was called something. I guess Sound Image. That's the same thing.
So yeah.
Well, get this. He played in a glam band, a local band here called Network. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah. I think I'm friends with Toby on Facebook. He's a cool kid.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around. Uh-huh.
Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, it was funny because he showed us his Network album. Like, oh man, I remember seeing this everywhere when I was buying records like 10 years ago. And holy shit, that's funny. Like in the 80s, and like there he is. He's
Oh,
producing
dude.
a encore record.
Yeah, dude. You know what? Like, yeah, well, Utah may have had a pretty good underground scene, but the hair metal scene at the time was just off the hook, man.
Well,
You
yeah,
had
it's
you had like
counterculture.
you had like Network, you had what was the other one? Meg Attack, uh
A Big Attack, Snakebite, Harlot. There was another
Hard
one from
Knocks.
Arizona. You mentioned that one from Arizona, Mercenary?
No, Icon was from
No,
Arizona.
Icon. That's right. And there was also a band called Mercenary that was kind of like a metal band. There are a lot of
Yeah.
bands, but that's
Lixeray.
counterculture in Salt Lake City is largely because of the presence of the Mormon Church. A lot of it.
But and then like in a weird way though, like I became part of the scene after they dissolved and reformed into more like contemporary bands. So like the band that I'm in right now, Super So Far, all those members were in they started as a band called Skit Skat.
I don't
And
know that one.
do you remember Circus?
Was that like with an S by any chance, or a K or something? Or
It was with K.
yeah, I
They
remember.
had they had a song on that Best of Rock from the Wasatch Front
Oh, you know what? That
compilation.
reminds me too. Last week, or maybe it was the week before, we had talked about, you said a band called Seventh Circle or something from New Mexico.
Seventh Sign.
I think I do remember that. And the reason why is when I was listening to our recording and I was like, oh shit, I remember that band because I got like one day when I was not at the Abyss, the record store, they had come in, and one of my kids just bought some CDs from him, and I told him just buy stuff from locals and just give them the cash straight up, and we'll sell it. Well, I guess those guys had come in because I still have them to this day. I've got like copies of that CD. Seventh Sign is like a off-white, kind of pale yellow CD with like a star, or a pentagram looking thing, or a Star of David or something, or
It's not a Star of David. It's like a
it's not a Star of David, but it's like a mathematical like star or just some design. But I remember that CD.
yeah. It's like it's. I thought it was blue. Let me look at the
Well,
CD
maybe it
again.
is. I don't. It's been a long time. I was pretty sure it was like a pale yellow, but it had like it was either like an O or a circle or like a star or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, absolutely.
I've
It
got
is. It's
a
like,
couple of those still sitting in my storage.
are you serious, dude? Because let me bring it up real quick.
I got a lot of local band stuff that like I used to buy it straight
Well, no,
up,
because
give them
listen,
the
man,
money.
like
Oh,
I bought the Seventh Sign albums. I had to buy them like import,
what? You should have just said
and
I got them in my storage. Fuck, I would have given you one.
no, and that yeah that the transparent CD I paid $60 for.
Holy shit. Why is that so much? They're not popular or anything.
They're one of those bands that like one, I mean, they just had a really strong like kind of like underground. They just never really they only put out the two albums and I think one demo. And but it's just super rare and they're good and they're really good. That's the thing. Like they're really good. Like
Did
and
they
you probably
sound
should have been.
Now, what did they sound like again? Because I remember my kids telling me, I'm like, "What's this?" And they said, "Oh, it's kind of like Alice in Chains or something. It's not bad." I'm like, "Really? Is
They,
that really
they
what
would
it
they would
sounds like?"
they would cover Alice in Chains songs, but they're harder. They're like I described them as like a heavier Dokken, Queensryche a little bit, but
Yeah, you said they were kind of like a Maiden, kind of Dockeny, like more of that melodic Fates Warning-ish kind of stuff.
yeah,
But
but more hard rocking, like more energized, not as like kind of somber, more in your face delivery. Really good. Like, yeah, dude, that's cool. Hold on to those CDs, man, because it's funny because I just hopped on eBay and the Disorder CDs are selling for like $30. Um,
yeah, that's crazy too. I still have some of those, but they're like in pieces. But I
I'm just
want
gonna see what
to.
Transparent is going for on eBay, if you can even get it. Seventh Sign. Let's see. Hold on. Damn it.
Oh, what is it? What is it?
I'm finally. So the album's called Transparent, or like that's their most recent one. So good, man. Those guys are so good. Yeah,
And speaking of rare
Transparent.
records and kind of bringing us back to our topic this week is Iron Maiden. Is I remember being in Denver once. I took Winterlord. We went out there to play a show. Winterlord being the kids who worked in my CD shop. We played a show out there, and we went to all the record stores in town that we could find. There was one where I saw on the shelf, not in perfect condition, but in reasonably good condition, a 12-inch record of Iron Maiden made in Japan. Long, long out of print. Now, it wasn't that much. It was like $20. I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me? And I gave it to this little girl I know that I used to work with at the barbecue because she was an absolute Iron Maiden, like diehard fan. She wanted that record so bad because she didn't have it in her collection that reminded her of her father because he had it.
Mm.
She lost it or it got stolen or something. So I found it there and I gave it to her. She was so, so happy. I was like, man, I wish I could have kept that because it was so rare. Like made in Japan, like the last thing with Paul Diano before he was out of the band, too. Just live shit. But
Oh yeah. No, that dude, I'm stoked that you have some of those Seventh Sign albums. Because their singer, unfortunately, he passed away. Like he died in a motorcycle accident
who is this?
in 2018. The singer for Seventh Sign.
Oh,
His name
really?
is Greg Anaya, and he was a cool dude. Like he was a full-blooded Pueblo.
Maybe
And
that's
so
why their CDs are so sought after now.
no, I mean they were like I said, I had to I bought I bought their CDs in God, it was like probably 2002 2003 or
Well, see,
so.
here's another thing, and
And
here's
I had to, yeah, I had to get them import, and it was like $65 for
that is
CD.
insane. And I have it.
Dude, that's
It's sitting in my storage like for years, just in a box of CDs of other local shit and Mortician and all that shit I
oh,
bought.
dude, that's a treasure, man. We should do a show just going through your storage shed.
I've
Um,
got stuff in my collection of my own as well as just stuff from the store that's like probably worth money now. I mean, every guy who's owned the record store can probably say that, but
yeah, no, you got stuff you could probably retire from.
here's
So,
a funny story too, though. Is just last night I got an email from my website for the label Slaughterhouse Records, the store
mhm.
envy, and like they took down something off my website because it was deemed offensive. I'm like, what?
Oh,
And it
of
turns out it was
course.
Pro Fanatica, who are of course super offensive in everything they do and say. But
Mhm.
there was a word, and it said the word was supplement that you can't have in there. I'm like, supplement? What? The fuck does that mean? Like supplement, like vitamin supplement? Why is that a bad word?
Probably like practicing medicine without a license.
I don't fucking know. I have no fucking idea. I'm like, that just makes no fucking sense. And it's funny because Pro Fanatica are like easily the most offensive, like in your face, anti PC, anti
Mhm.
everything band, like borderline racist for some people, and like everything. They play naked, they masturbate on stage with each other. It's fucking crazy. They're fucking insane. And then
Yuck.
the word supplement is like the bad thing about that. Like, oh yeah, you can't have that. You can show him jacking off on the bass player, but you can't have supplement like that word. I'm like, all right. And it's one
Wasn't
CD I have left, and that's also a really rare CD too that I figured I should probably pull down at some point and like keep it and let it ferment. And
wasn't wasn't Pro Fanatica weren't they profiled in that uh oh, we talked about that book. It was like the devil music book,
Lucifer Rising.
Lucifer Rising.
I think they were in there, and they were in Lords of Chaos. They were mentioned, I think, but I mentioned them too because we were talking about all the bands who share members. And Pro Fanatica, the
Mhm.
main guy in that band, Paul Ledney, was in Incantation, like way back when, with all the other guys, like the guy from Mortician, Will Raymer, like all those guys were in the same bands together.
Okay.
And like I think Revenant, maybe like some of those guys were in Incantation back in the day. Do you like Revenant? You would like them. They're in that school of like malevolent creation, but not quite as like brutal in your face. They're a little more like maideny, I guess you could say, but they're death metal, early death metal, like
Okay.
proto Florida, but they're from
Speaking
New
of
York.
early death metal, Brutality just released a new album, and yeah,
As
check it
did
out.
Decapitated. We got to check those out.
Oh,
Decapitated.
I did listen to the Decapitated. Did you?
I didn't listen to it all the way through, but what I've heard of it so far has been pretty good, like pretty standard Decapitated, but I like it.
Well, they had and it's funny because it kind of comes full circle. One of the tracks on the new Decapitated album has a guest vocal by I
Yeah,
don't know
there's
how to pronounce her name,
some guy.
Tatiana
What's that band?
Ginger.
No, there's another guest performer too, like a male vocal, like on some song too. It's a guy from another band. Like it's not like a really death metal band. That I can't remember. Yeah,
Yeah, but the one I'm thinking though is Tatiana Schmyluk from Ginger. She's incredible, dude. And I told you that band's gonna be like
oh,
gigantic.
Rob Flynn from
Oh,
Machine
Machine
Head.
Head and Violence.
He's on a song on there too. Yeah, that didn't excite me.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
whatever. But, and you know what's funny too about the new Decapitated is the beginning track, the intro. I heard that and I wasn't paying attention to the what was on. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, this sounds like Doom, the video game, like level 3. Like, what is that? And like, is that Doom? So I look at my phone, it's decapitated, but it was just the intro. I'm like, that sounds identical to like something from like the old Doom video game. I don't know if you know that, but if you know what I'm talking about, if you've played Doom, you'll know what I mean. But
I remember the first like Doom, but I don't remember like really much about
well,
the
there's a
soundtrack.
very kind of keyboardy, like heavy, like music with like a guitar in it, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds just like you're about to go run off and kill some demons. I'm like, this is decapitated. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I might give it another spin, but I was liking what I was hearing. Once again, it sounds like Decapitated, like it's their style is that sort of they almost just define the Polish.
Oh, and speaking of
death
which,
metal.
another tidbit of news for you is
They are Polish, right?
yeah, they're from Poland. Well, guess what? One of the guys from Decapitated is in a band with another death metal guy whom I already forgot, but they're also the bass player is David Ellefson of Megadeth, but they're doing
Oh,
death.
it's a new band that just barely came out. Like it's the new project for David Ellison, you're right? Um, after he was shamed,
Yeah, it's bull
shamed out of Megadeth.
pussy. Fuck him.
I wouldn't say that, but he runs a tight
He
ship.
is the fucking crybaby that quit. Well, I mean, he got kicked out of Metallica. If you've read, did you say you read John Zazula's book, Megaforce Records?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, same story right there. That was at his house when they kicked Dave out of Metallica, and he was being a douchebag, and he was doing heroin too, on top of everything else. They're like, "Well, fuck you. We want to
Wow,
succeed. Get the fuck out of here."
yeah, he was an angry drunk, really was the thing. I mean, if he wasn't an angry drunk, I mean, everybody in Metallica drank like crazy, you know.
Well,
But
he was a heroin addict or something, is what I heard.
I
But
think I think heroin came later. Uh, I think
well,
heroin was post Metallica.
but you said something earlier about Seventh Sign that made me think. We were talking
Ah,
about
dude, I'm so glad you have those albums, like, because they really are like one of my favorite. Like the singer is one of my favorite singers of all time.
well, I was going to say, we were talking about why Mexicans love thrash so much, and like Latino people from like outside the U.S., like in South America. But you were saying that Seventh Circle, like I bet part of the reason why people are,
Seventh Sign.
yeah, I keep saying Seventh Circle. Part of the reason why they want that CD so bad is probably because they're supporting their own, like the American Native people, or whether it was Latino people or whatever. But that's
I
also a
don't.
big factor in why people like certain types of music.
Well, you know, it's weird. It's like I don't think he was really advertising that aspect of the band.
Well, he wasn't. He wasn't. But that's the thing is they're like that. They're united.
I
Just
had
like
to like kind of research and deep dive. Oh, he's actually, teaches classes at the, not the Pueblo Cultural Center. You know, like he was like full on like part of the community and everything. And
well,
but
that might be
it's
even more.
almost like he kept
Right?
his music sort of separate from that in a weird way. You know, because it's
Well,
very. But
yeah.
I'll but I'll tell you like when I first heard him. When I first heard Seventh Sign, it was on this there was like this internet radio station I used to listen to called Prog Radio. And for some reason they were played on this yeah, they were played on a prog metal radio station. I don't think they're prog metal, but even just like the way he sings though, there was something like in my head I already like kind of you know how like when you hear like somebody sing, you haven't seen them, but you're already kind of constructing what they look like.
Yeah, it's
And
never what you think either.
yeah, but this was one where it was like I was just like, man, that guy sounds like just in my head is like sounds like a Native American. Like and there's nothing about his voice that would tell you that other than there's almost like that sort of kind of yelp in his voice. Like it's really subtle. That almost it kind of has that sort of Indian native like that, like you hear the chants, that kind of thing. Um, there's a little bit of that quality to his voice, but it's not like I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm just delusional about it, but like you can kind of just hear it. It's really weird, but his voice, like I mean, it's just an incredible. It's like if you took the best of like Don Dokken and Fate's Warning and even like Alice in Chains, just kind of put them in the blender. That's the guy's voice. It's really good. Like I I don't know. You may dig it or you may not, but I think you would actually, because it's just just quality hard rock metal, like some of the
Well, a
best.
lot of those people, a lot of people who aren't white, shall we say, whether it's American Native, Latino, or Black, i.e., African American people, you know how they stick together, right? Because they're usually oppressed by everybody else, namely the white people. Uh, so you got, I've always noticed that. I'm like, how would that be? You know, you just a black person, they're a total stranger, two of them, and they like talk to each other like they're brothers, literally, like how they call each other, but they have that unity. The same thing with Latinos, same thing with American natives. When I did my radio show, the
Mhm.
show that followed me at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning after I left was an
Was the
American.
world mute? Yeah, I remember that thing. It was on Sunday mornings.
So a lot of times I'd have like drunk Indian or Native Americans. Like I learned the hard way not to say Indians back then because I said that
Yeah,
and they got pissed. I was like, whoa, 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 easy, man, easy. And they're like, okay, I know now, I know.
yeah.
So they got pissed, but then they would talk to each other. They'd come down for my show too because they love metal. They'd be like, "What tribe are you?" And they'd be talking to each other like they were just long lost friends. I
Uh,
always noticed that. I'm like, that's really kind of cool if they have that, you know.
yeah.
And but that's why they're so united. Like when they see a band with those kind of with their people in it, of course they like support that band 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So talking of thrash and Brazil and all of that, you have to remember too. There was a label called Cogumelo.
Mm-hmm.
That that label.
No.
They're the ones that Sepultura started out on when they were like a black thrash band, like black metal. Cogumelo Recordings, and they're also the ones who put out tons of other bands. There's Tarantula, Volcano, I think Minotaur. I can't remember. There's a bunch of thrash bands from South America that were on that label, as well as RDP, Ratos de Pareo, a hardcore band who
Huh.
were pretty popular. So all of that stuff, like it's all in the melting pot down there. They had their own big like earache record style label, but they put out
Mhm.
thrash. So thrash is the king down there. It always has been. There's no way. I mean, there's a few death metal bands and black metal bands that have come up, but for the most part, yeah, that's their mainstay. Just like Utah is always going to be like Salt Lake's always going to be known for hardcore, although we kind of got it on the map for black metal and death metal for a while, but
And
it's
the
always a
Osmonds.
punk state. Despite that Slaughterhouse Records is here and that Mentally Challenged is here and Mark Hansen,
Right.
a million glam rock bands are here.
I know. So we might have to like push Maiden out. We got off on a big old tangent.
Yeah, we didn't really get too far in the Iron Maiden, did we?
That's all right. But yeah, man. What else was I gonna say? I was listening. This would be another idea for a show. Christian metal.
Oh God.
I was listening to a band last night called Angelica.
Oh God.
Badass.
I could not listen to a band called Angelica. I'm sorry. Are they
Oh,
glam?
dude, they're amazing. They're like okay. What do you like? Glam is a bro. They're hard rock metal, so they're of that like I would say hair metal. I think hair metal is a better term because glam. I think you can have all the teased hair and the tight pants and everything, but no makeup. That's hair metal. Put on makeup,
I know
glam
Eddie
metal.
Trunk hates the term glam because he thinks it pigeonholes it into a laughable, like little unique curiosity from the 80s. He doesn't
Well,
want it to be that way. He wants it to be like, no,
well,
this
my thing is because glam to me is like Ziggy Stardust. It's New York Dolls. Like it's almost more punk to me. Like glam almost has more in common with punk than it does metal. That's
there's that
that's just my
crossover.
opinion. Hmm?
I said there is that crossover, yeah.
So so I think hair metal is actually a more appropriate term. But a lot of people will hear like Winger and say, well, that's not even metal. But to me, I'm like, hey, is there a good guitar playing with Chunk? That is metal.
Yeah, well. You got to look at it from like the perspective of in the 80s when that stuff came out, like you had Winger, she's only 17 versus say Slayer, Angel of Death. I'm like, which one's metal? Like, if the
Here,
average person is going to point to Slayer every time. So,
I had this like crazy idea, like if I ever wanted to do like a big charity event kind of thing, I would take a band like Cannibal Corpse and take a band like Winger and make them so Cannibal Corpse has to learn a Winger song and put it in their style. And then Winger has to re-record a Cannibal Corpse song and but Wingerize it, like turn it into a Winger song. And then you just sell it for profit.
Are there other people in the house?
is she talking to you?
Probably.
Tell her to fuck off.
I know.